amazing. You, how are you doing? Welcome to Chat Hour. If you're stopping by for the very first time, welcome and thank you. And if you are returning, welcome and thank you. Today, I am not doing this alone. I am super excited. I'm so delighted to have parenting experts, child rights advocate, lawyer. He wears so many hats. He has so many feathers in his cap. Mr. Taiwo Akinlami. Welcome, Mr. Taiwo Akinlami.
Thank you so much for having me. It's my pleasure to be with you today.
Today on this episode of Chat Hour, we're talking a topic that is very disturbing, awkward, it is highly destructive, and it is very rampant these days. We are talking incest. Now, in case you don't know what that means, it is sexual relations between people who are classed as being too closely related to marry each other. It's a taboo, it's an abomination, and it's a crime. You see, years ago, I had a friend who was called to be the MC of a popular secondary school's prom in Lagos. And so he went and wanted to, familiarize himself with the students before the D-Day. And while doing that, the students felt very relaxed. They were talking to him about different things, and somehow some of the students told him that there was a set of twins in the class that were actually sleeping with each other. That was shocking to him. So the parents would always see them together, but they would never be able to tell that that is happening just because, they're twins, they're siblings, and, they are supposed to have a connection as twins. Mr. Taiwo Akinlami, I would like to really get into your thoughts. Would you say this is parenting gone wrong, or is it that the children just picked it somewhere? Does it even have anything to do with parenting? What exactly are your thoughts?
Thank you very much for having me. This is a sobering and informative conversation. It's a conversation we must have, and I must begin by commending you for having a way to bring out conversations that are overlooked, by the media and by the society most of the time. The first thing is, the book that I read says, do not shift the ancient landmarks that our fathers have put in place. The truth of the matter is that human society has certain rules and regulations, has certain norms, custom that govern our affairs. And it is on the basis of this custom that we judge matters. We judge everything that we do. Is this right? Is this wrong? But we have entered a point now in the global affairs where we are being told nothing is wrong, nothing is right. So when we attend programs this day, we are told there are no wrong answers, there are no right answers, that everybody can do what he or she likes, and it is your truth. It is what you feel is okay. And when we work like that, it means that there is no reference point for human behavior. It means that I can do whatever I like. And if you ask me why I'm doing so, I tell you, well, that's what I feel. And that's why I think I shared a video with you, a bizarre video of a mother,
you did.
Saying that she was having sexual relationship with the son. Now, she was saying in that video that my son is young, but is not young when it comes to being able to perform sexual activities. Now, if that child is below 18, that mother is not only committing incest, she's also committing an offense, because a child, anybody below 18 is a child, and such child does not have capacity to give consent to sex.
That's right.
And she was saying it, and she was being televised, and she was granting an interview, and there was no holding back. She was laughing. There was no regret. There was no remorsefulness, So I think the challenge we are dealing with is there's no shame anymore. There's no reference point. In the animal kingdom, there's no shame. There's no accountability. That is why a goat mates with the mother. As a matter of fact, there's no sense of this is my mother, this is my father, right? That's why the father of the goat and the goat can be sharing the same sex partner, who is the mother. And so, but in the human kingdom, there is appropriateness of behavior. There's what is right, there's what is wrong. There's
of course
what is abomination. Now, the truth of the matter is that how do we arrive at what is abominable? It is by judging whether this thing that we are talking about stands to dignity of human person. When a father begins to have sexual intercourse with the child, does it speak to dignity of human person? When a mother begins to have sexual intercourse with the son, does it speak to dignity of human person? Is this something we should be boasting about? You know, so it is not. So no matter how much the world wants us to believe that it is normal, it is right, it is okay, we should let it go, I don't think it is. I think it's something that we need to look at, it's something we need to discuss. And I think we should be discussing it in two parts. There are two regimes of the conversation.
All right.
The first regime is the conversation about children abusing themselves in the name of incest, brothers and sisters, cousins who live under the same roof or are visiting, beginning to engage in sexual relationship as people under the age of 18. And you know, 18 is globally accepted as the age of consent, right? To a very large extent. So there are some variations from different countries. But most importantly, largely, we talk about this regime of what happens between children. That's one regime. The other regime is what happens between children and their elders, their parents, their uncles, their grandparents. You know, the other day I was in the middle of a case. I was not in the middle of that case. I was reading a case in the newspaper of a grandfather who impregnated the granddaughter. Granddaughter was living with him, and he ended up sexually molesting the granddaughter and impregnated the granddaughter. So you find that there is a regime between two children, which is wrong. If it were between two children that were not even related, it would have been wrong. Not to talk of two children that is related. Now, when it comes to children, you know, sexually molesting themselves and their siblings or their close extended family, that is two-level abuse. Abuse of culture and tradition, abuse of the law. Now, we now find elders sexually molesting children. Now, these are fathers, these are mothers, these are uncles, these are grandparents sexually molesting their children, right? That's the second regime. I think there's a third one. The third one is now where a consenting adult, 21, 22, is having sexual relationship with the dad, uncle, and all of that. Uncle, father, grandfather. But this person is already an older person. Now there's a fourth regime. The fourth regime is, this thing starts as when these people were children. And so I've seen cases where somebody was living with an uncle. The uncle, as a matter of fact, is a brother-in-law, began to molest her sexually when she was young, just 14-year-old. Then she lived with them. She got into the university. At university, when she was 18, this man was still visiting. This man now translated from an abuser of a child to a sugar daddy, right? Who was going to campus. He would just tell the wife, let me go and check your sister. The wife would say, I cannot thank you enough. You are just interested in everything that interests me. You take care of my family. You take care of this, my little sister. Thank you so much. You know, going there, unknown to the sister, her sister was already sharing husband with her. And you know, she did not know what is going on. We dealt with a story of a girl who was 14 years old when her mom left. Her father is a big industrialist in Nigeria. Began to sexually molest the 14-year-old. How did this start? One day, this 14-year-old was down with fever. And so when she was down with fever, the father showed up to say, how are you doing? I'm doing well. Have you taken medication and all of that? And the next thing is that the father began to pray on her. Before you know it, that became a constant relationship for 2 years. 2 years, 2 straight years. This big industrialist who could get any woman chose his own daughter as the prey. And so she was molesting that child for 2 straight years. At the age of 16, this child gained admission into the university. It was when she left home and she got to the university, she called the mom. Mom, you need to come to my school. What is going on, Mom? You need to come. There's something I need to discuss with you.
Tell you.
And so when the mom went to school, she was 16 when she gained admission into the university. And so she told the mom to say, this is what has been going on between dad and I. It was the mom that reported the matter to the Lagos State government, Domestic and Sexual Violence Response Team. But let me say this. For every regime, sex between 2 children is an abuse. 2 siblings is an abuse in the eye of the law. It's an abuse in the eye of culture, global culture, anywhere in the world.
It's a taboo.
Right? Now, between father, mother, and their parents or relatives, it is an abuse of those children under the law. It is also an abomination for 2 so-called consenting adults who maybe started the relationship as children and they graduated to doing it as adults. That is an abuse of that's an abuse of culture, of tradition. Now, at the end of the day, we have had situations. You see, many years ago, my office was at a place called Ampak Plaza in Ikeja. They call it Ikeja Business District, very close to Fela Shrine there. So one day, there's a man who lived, opposite. He was living opposite in an almost uncompleted building. Then we saw that our daughters, were always pregnant. The daughters were always pregnant, and these were secondary school age daughters and all of that. And so one day, because of my interest, I began to converse with one of them because these children live with this man. None of them is married. They are pregnant. Who must be responsible for this pregnancy? So I started investigating, talking to them. It was when that I found that it was their dad that was impregnating them, right?
Wow.
So, so I'm telling you, it's rampant. So you were asking, is it a parenting issue? I think it's multifaceted. It can be a parenting issue. It can be a social issue. It can be a poverty issue. It's so many issues involved. But one thing we must say from the onset, it is that it is wrong on all fronts. It ought not to be so. And each of the regime will have a different remedy.
Yeah. For
those who are molesting children who are molesting themselves, they will need counseling. They are children in conflict with the law. For adults who are molesting children, they have run foul of the law. They will have to face the music. For 2 so-called consenting adults who are engaging in sexual relationship and their relatives, they need to be counseled. They need to be spoken to because it is completely wrong. It ought not to be so. Thank you.
How can parents do it so that it doesn't even happen at all? I mean, they tell parents that they shouldn't allow children of opposite sex to sleep in the same room. Is that enough? I mean, how can aspiring parents, learn from this so that it doesn't happen? Or parents who have children who have never practiced incest, how can they do it so that these children would never even go near it? And is it about giving these children sex education?
Every evil or every social menace or every social disequilibrium is preventable if we understand it enough to know how it occurs. you know, there's a research, or there are plethora of researches on how to cure cancer. What are they trying to find out? How does it happen? When they know the root causes, they can now say, okay, they now come out with different rules and regulations. Don't drink water from this. Don't beware of microwave, you know, and all of that. They come out with all of, but until you understand the problem, you cannot find a solution. Whatever solution you're trying to find, which does not take into cognizance the problem, the root causes of the problem, it's not going to work. So what we are dealing with today is in the realm of behavioral science. It is latter behavior of human beings, and which must be carefully studied in behavioral science and begin to find the credible way forward. We cannot conjure a way forward. We must understand that human beings are beginning to behave this way. What could be the reason? The reason in a third world country may be different from the reason in a first world country. Now, so let me take it one after the other.
All right.
So first, we have spoken about the recurring decima about parents who abuse their daughters or their sons, are that they are from broken homes. Recalling. I'm not saying that is always the case. Since the man I spoke about in our former office was living alone with his daughters. The industrialist, whom the Lagos State government later came to intervene, was living alone with the daughters, leave their children behind. I've been in a school where a child came to me to say our dad, who is a pilot, whom the mother was not with, was sexually molesting her. Please note, there are also children who have been molested by their dad, even when their mother is there. What I'm saying is that what we have found, which is recurring in terms of our own practice and field experience, are instances where a female or a male is raising a child alone, the opposite sex alone. Another thing we have also found that is rampant is step parents. A woman leaves a relationship, or a man leaves a relationship, remarries. Now this woman comes this woman comes with her children. So the stepdad begins to sexually molest these children.
The children,
The children
and that's
of the wife.
Family.
Are you getting it?
Yes.
Now, so that is also rampant. So what is the solution to that? When it comes to custody, in matters of divorce, the court and the parents need to now be extra careful as to who to award custody. It should not be a general rule that once you belong to the opposite sex, you cannot get custody. It should not be a general rule. But we should not be more stringent in this issue. Now, note, if you want to adopt a child, for example, a man of the opposite sex can adopt a female. Are you getting it? A man cannot say, I want to adopt a female. The government frowns at that. Now, because this person wants to adopt, is supposed to be an adopted child, it's not your biological child. Now, under an adoption arrangement, it's supposed to become to you like a biological child, right?
Yeah.
But if people are sexually molesting their biological children, how much more an adopted child? So we need to be more careful now when it comes to the issue of when you want to leave a relationship, when you want to leave a marriage as a man or as a woman. One of the top conversations we must begin to have is, can we leave an opposite sex? Can we leave a child who is male with a female parent, or can we leave a child who is male, who is female with a male parent? Those are conversations we need to have. Very, very important. That's number
right.
one. Number two is children and sexual intercourse, that is siblings. Now, when we talk about parents, we are looking at two classes of parents. There are parents who can afford to put 10 children in 10 rooms. They have the resources. But there are parents also who don't have that leverage. They live
That's
in face
right.
me, I face you. Is self-contained. For those two classes of parents, we must find a meeting point for both of them. Those
That's
two
right.
classes. The meeting point is sexuality education. The meeting point is family union. The meeting point is family coming together to be closely knitted, to understand what values are, to understand what is appropriate in the eye of culture, to understand that no matter what happens, your sister is your sister, your cousin is your cousin, your niece is your niece, your nephew is your nephew. You don't go there. You must find another way to give expression to your sexual urges and libido and hormones and all of that. And children need to be taught from childhood that sex is not meant for children. You know, because that is the upper conversation. The lower conversation is that don't do sex with your brother and your sister and your cousin and your relatives. But the primary conversation is sex is not meant for children. Children are meant to focus on their education. They are meant to focus on learning about what their sexuality is about, instead of giving expression to sexual urges, to sexual, hormones and all of that. Please note, children are going to feel, because we can't take away that from people. Now there's adolescents. Adolescents have certain sexual feelings. An adolescent is talking to an opposite sex and is having an erection. An opposite sex is talking and a lady is already feeling somehow. A child is even below 18, is feeling as if maybe I should just grab him. I should just begin to kiss him and all of that. I tell young people, crush is legitimate. Crush is legitimate. Crush is a legitimate expression among young people. Some young people have their first crush when they were 5 years old, 7 years old, 8 years old. They just like this particular person.
Someone. That's right.
Someone. Right. And people can also have, maybe it's possible for someone to have a crush on a family member. It's possible. But you see, crush is predicated on feeling. It is not everything you feel you give expression to. Young people need to understand. We need to help them to understand that feelings are legitimate. Crushes are legitimate. They are not to be cursed. They are not to be condemned for crushing. They are not to be condemned for having feelings, right? It is what you do with the feeling that becomes whether that feeling in itself is going to lead you in the right or the wrong direction. Feeling by itself is legitimate. That I'm crushing on someone, particularly for young people, is legitimate. Is about what childhood brings, fantasies, because they are not also at home with the consequences of their actions. So they believe that life begins and ends with feeling. 10 years down the line, 20 years down the line, their taste will change, their disposition will change. They are giving themselves to every feeling, then they are going to become victims. These are conversations we need to have with young people. When I talk to young people, I tell them, I say, when you feel pressed, you want to use the bathroom.
Okay.
No matter how pressed you are, there's an appointed time and a place for using the bathroom. If you're in the bus, you will keep yourself together. You will use all the techniques that you have in this world to make sure that you hold yourself until you get to a place that is appropriate for it. So that is a feeling. You tame it because, why did you tame it? Why did you give expression to it? Why didn't you pull on yourself in the classroom as a 10-year-old, even a 7-year-old, or 8-year-old, or 10-year-old, 15-year-old, 16? Why did you pull on yourself? And when they tell you, say, it's my feeling, I can't control it. You don't do that because you know the consequences of doing that on yourself. You wait for the time to do it. The same way you feel for a guy, you consider the consequences of going with your feeling. I love you, I love you. If you come now and you say I'm pregnant, is the conversation still going to be the same? If you are pregnant now, can you call your mom or your dad and say, Daddy and Mommy, in fact, I'm pregnant? If something untoward happen as a result of this your exploit or your escapades, are you proud of it? I tell young people, I tell them, look, whatever you want to do in secret, that you are not, you are only proud of in secret, but you are not proud of in the public.
Yeah.
It makes you an hypocrite.
Yeah.
It makes you a person lesser than himself or herself. If you believe that masturbation is right, come to the sitting room where everybody is. Mom is there, dad is there, and begin to do it. The same way you eat before everybody. The same way you drink before everybody. If you think India is the norm, come home, buy it, put it on the table. And on the dining table, smoke your thing, leave it carelessly there. The same way you leave the paper of your bread, and you know that nobody is going to scream. If you know that sexual intercourse, sexual relationship, which is an abuse between you and your sibling, is okay. When mommy and daddy is in the sitting room, begin to kiss yourselves and make it happen before them. But anytime you feel that this behavior is acceptable, because you know that it is acceptable, but you know that this one is unacceptable, the one that is acceptable, you do it before your parents.
Yeah.
You do it before your teachers. You do it in the bus. You do it everywhere. The one you know is not acceptable, you do it in secret. Please note that something is not acceptable does not mean it is wrong. In this instance, I'm talking about sexual behavior that is wrong.
Yeah.
You yourself, you know that on every scale you put it, it is wrong. I'm not talking about a child who is asked to be in a particular class, but believes that I'm supposed to be a child who's been told that he's a science student, but who believes that he's an art student, and who wants to give expression to arts. Are you getting it? I believe the child. I don't also believe that the child should go out be doing it in secret. The child should be able to open up to the parents to say, Mom and Dad, this is what I really want to do. So whatever you are doing in secret that you are not proud of in public, it means you know that it is not supposed to be so. You are just indulging yourself. It's indulgence. Like Mr. Lakuleshwanya would say, if you say that you can't hold yourself, I can't help myself, I'm just helpless. If you are holding a woman, you're about to take her to bed, or is about to take you to bed, or whoever is taking each other to bed, and a paper drops in the pocket of one of you that says, I'm HIV positive, are you still going to continue?
Will you not control yourself? Will you not retrieve your steps?
Immediately, whatever is happening to you, whatever libido, whatever hormones, whatever is running in you, is going to come to a stop.
That's right.
Because you can see the consequences right before you. You are going to control yourself. It therefore means the problem is not with you being able to control yourself every time. The problem is with the premium you place on consequences.
Wow.
When the premium you place on consequences is low, or you believe that nothing will happen, what do? You just indulge yourself. Whatever you do, when you say that you cannot control yourself, it is because of the premium you place on consequences. It is just self-indulgence.
Mr. Taiwo Akinlami, I would like to ask, What would you advise parents who have found themselves in this situation, parents whose children already practice incest? Because, you know, I saw a post on Instagram a while ago where a parent said that she saw her children having sex with each other, and she was so shocked when she saw them, but somehow she has pretended not to have seen them. I mean, that is so wrong. What exactly would you advise parents to do? Because, of course, it is natural for them to be shocked. It is not something to be seen. In fact, it is not even meant to happen at all. What exactly would you advise them?
So when parents stumble on these kind of things, don't be despondent. You can be shocked. You can be concerned, but don't give up. Don't allow what is wrong to continue. We must always put culpability where culpability belongs. When there's a social problem, we diagnose the problem. Diagnosis will give you an insight into what the problem is, because there are no two incest cases that are the same. You know, because this is behavioral science. Research can try to give us an idea, but the nitty-gritty of it is that human beings are different. You know, our experiences are shaping us differently. The way we respond, the way we see things are completely different. We are either victims or beneficiaries of our childhood experiences. So children do stuff for different reasons. So when something happens, what parents do most of the time, which is very sad, is that they want to solve the situation with general knowledge, with objective knowledge. They want to pounce on it and solve it by fire, by force. It doesn't work that way. If your child is caught, your siblings, your children are, you find them having sexual intercourse, abusing themselves, the first thing you want to understand is what led to it. When you go before a medical doctor, no matter what the situation is, the medical doctor does not begin to provide solution or deal with what you are complaining about without prying into your medical history. Without asking you, are you feeling this way? Are you feeling that way? When you get to the medical doctor and you say, I have a headache, I have an headache, or a headache, it doesn't say, okay, recommend something to you. No, it will ask you other questions, because that headache might be an end in itself. It may be a symptom to a larger crisis, health crisis. So the way we need to solve behavioral problem is when something happens, we want to understand what happened. We want to understand what is going on. We want to understand why it is happening. Until we are patient enough to understand what is going on now, please note what I'm telling you now is easier said than done. When you are in this kind of situation, you want to do and undo. You want to act immediately. You want to clear the rubbish. You want to clear the moral debris. You want to make sure that this thing does not happen again. You resort to beating, cursing, doing all kinds of things, denying children of food, separating them. It has not worked that way. It doesn't work that way. So my first recommendation is that we must sit down to understand what is leading to what. What is leading to what? It is after we have understood what is leading to what that we can begin to now say, okay, what kind of solution can we find? Now, there are instances where some issues, this incest is far gone, is neck deep, is a constant experience. There are instances where it is the first time. Now, the solution for those who are caught doing it first time must be different from the solution for those who have been doing it for a very long time. These are different cases and different scenarios. But if you don't take time to understand the scenario, understand what led to what, we are just going to, begin to act. Now, when I work with parents, I let them understand that there are two kinds of knowledge you need to have about your children, even the best of children, even those who are doing well. I believe that every child is doing well. That's my belief. Anybody below 18 is doing well. Or what about the child who is smoking weed? The child is doing well. Every child is doing well. Well is defined not by what the child does, but by the response of the guardian, the parent, to guide the child. So therefore, parents must have two knowledge. Number one, the first knowledge is this objective knowledge. Objective knowledge speaks to general knowledge. Objective. This is objective reality, right? And there's what we call subjective knowledge. Subjective knowledge is understanding your child as a person. So what do you use the objective knowledge to do? You use the objective knowledge to understand childhood generally. Then when it comes to subjective, which is what you need to be able to relate with your child, you understand your child from the lenses of objective knowledge so that you understand the specificity of the behavior of your child and you're able to bring solution from there. What do parents do? They compare one child to another. Look at your brother, look at your sister. You just said it. That's the brother, this is the sister, they are different. They are not the same. So how come they're not the same? Maybe when you gave birth to the younger one, you were living in Mushi. The older one, you were living in Mushi. And the child was exposed to all kinds of things. By the time you were giving birth to the third one, the first one and second one, you were in Mushi, Olosha, downtown, and the children were exposed to all kinds of things. By the time you were giving birth to the third one, God has blessed you, have moved to Ikoyi. And the influence and the exposure is different. Your child, your first and the second one, they went to the best private school in Mushi, is still in Mushi. Your third one is going to the best private school in Ikoyi, is still Ikoyi. Their exposure is different. So you can't come and say, why is this first one behaving like this? Why is the other one behaving like that? Two different cases. So my charge, therefore, is that we're going to solve a social problem, particularly working with our children. We must, as a matter of supreme urgency and as a matter of supreme necessity, ensure that our actions are predicated upon informed responses. Informed, please. That informed is written in capital letters, underlined and embodied. Informed. The challenge a lot of times is that we act on our impulse, we act on our anger, we act on our shock. It therefore requires a high level of emotional discipline, intelligence to do.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Akinlami. Now, there is another situation, a situation where children who are adults already have been practicing incest is so neck deep, and now one wants to settle down and the other is not having it. This one brings home a boyfriend or a girlfriend, and the other one is just in disagreement and not just having it at all. The parents might never just know what is happening, but because they've been practicing incest, one is jealous and will not just allow that other person, get married in peace or, have a relationship in peace. What exactly do you say about this?
If young people, because of lack of knowing what is appropriate or what is not appropriate, or as a result of indulgence, if they engage in stuff that are not supposed to be, when they become adults, they need to ask themselves the question. Because this is the question I always ask myself, even as an adult. This thing that I want to smell, can I eat it? In my dialect, whatever you don't want to eat, don't smell. And that's my principle in life. This person I'm trying to get close to now, what is the end of the relationship? What am I trying to achieve? Once I look at it and I see that, well, particularly when I'm dealing with the opposite sex, that's my principle. So the relationship we want to begin to build now, is it a professional relationship? Yes.
Yeah.
What is the extent of a professional relationship? This is it. So once we are crossing to what is not professional, I begin to ask myself the question. So please, what is the goal of this other side of the relationship? Of now you calling yourselves every day, pouring over your day together, not all of that. Is that professional? If it's not professional, then what is it? So for me, we make mistakes as young people. The book that I read says, when I was a child, I behaved like a child. I spoke like a child.
Wow.
When I became
That's
an adult, I threw away every childish things. Are you going to marry your cousin? Are you going to marry your brother? Are you going to marry your sibling? You are not going to. So kill that fantasy that existed in childhood and let each other be. Forget about it. It has happened. If you are not able to forget about it on your own, then you need help. Maybe you need to see a therapist. You need to see a behavioral scientist. But let me tell you something very quickly. Don't overrate therapy. There's no therapist that can help you beyond number one, accepting that you have a problem and you are ready to solve the problem. There are three kinds of people you cannot help. Dr. Mike Murdoch said many years ago. One, those who believe they don't have a problem. Number two, those who believe you are part of their problem. You can't help them. You can't help those who believe they don't have a problem. You are the one, you are the one overreacting. It's not a problem. Number three, those who even know that they have a problem, those who even believe, those who know that they have a problem, but they are not ready to solve the problem. I was addicted to pornography in my teenage years. In my adulthood, today, 27. I was addicted to pornography. I was addicted to masturbation. I was addicted to all kinds of things. My life was a rough life before I gave my life to Christ at the age of 27. But you see, the other day I was speaking on radio and I was sharing my story of how I became a Christian at 27. And by God's grace, I've been sober sexually since age 27 till now. And so a young man called me and said, can you tell me what to do? What principle? I said, you know what? The first thing you need to do now is to decide, I'm done. Now that you are done is not your ultimate salvation, no. Because determination does not solve any problem. When your determination does not mix with building requisite value system that will become the pillars of that determination is a waste. Very soon you go back to your vomit, right? So, but the foundation of healing is to accept responsibility that something was wrong, that things need to be fixed, and the time to fix it is now, and I have a role to play. Something was broken. It needs to be fixed. The time to fix it is now, and I have a role to play in that fixing it. If I can be standing here today and do what I'm doing, looking at the life I've lived before, the life I've lived before has no connection. If they tell the story of my life from when I was sexually molested at the age of 6 till 27 when I met Christ, if they now tell you, where is that man today? People will come to three conclusions. One is dead. Two is in Yaba collecting tablet. Three, maybe he's been arrested. Are you getting it? But you see, my life is completely different. Are you getting it? And contrary to the kind of life I've lived before. I came to a point in my life where I took a decision. And decision for change. And that change, I define change. This is my definition. Change is an ever-present possibility for every human being who is ready to take responsibility. So my charge to you today is quit beating yourself down. Quit condemning yourself. Take the bull by the horn. Stop finding yourself guilty in your own court and condemning yourself. Put handcuffs on your destiny. No. What are you supposed to do? What you're supposed to do is to say, okay, I messed up. I goofed. I'm in prison now because I goofed. I've been ostracized and I've been fired before because I goofed. As a matter of fact, I've not been able to maintain a solid relationship because I goofed. So where do I go from here? For every problem, there's a solution. Determine to find a way. Where there's a way, there's a way. Then you may need to work with experts. You may need to work with different people in the journey. But I want to assure you that no matter what you have done, no matter what has happened to you, no matter where you have found yourself right now, as a result of the actions you have taken, maybe you have not even been caught, and you are afraid that one day they will catch me, I will be caught and all of that. Wherever you are in the triangle of this mess or other kinds of mess, I want to tell you something is broken. It needs to be fixed. The time to fix it is now. And you have a role to play in fixing it. Once you accept that as a reality, your journey is almost done.
Thank you so much, Mr. Akinlami, for coming on Chat Hour today. Chat Hour with you is always impactful, insightful, and refreshing. Thank you for your time indeed.
Thank you so much for having me. It's my pleasure to be with you.
Thank you so much for watching. What exactly do you think about this episode of Chat Hour? Kindly leave your thoughts down there in the comment section. We would like to have your thoughts. And if you have not subscribed to this channel, please hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. And if you consider this video a good one, kindly smash the like button already. Till I come your way again, or we come your way again, you never can tell. Let the conversation continue.